Hi, this is Shawnee Lavender, the Conscious Moms Coach, and today I'm going to be talking about differences in parenting approaches, parenting philosophies, thoughts about parenting that you might have with your partner. So this is really for you if you have really any degree of difference, because I'm going to speak to really that range of difference, because let me just say this. All of us have differences with our partners if we have a partner, because we're two different human beings. We have our own history and our own background. They have their own history and background. And so we are never going to have the exact same approach and the way of doing things, because we can't. Even if you had a twin, you would not have the exact same approach. So just put that out there right up front to say, all of us have this. And so if it's really a challenge for you, definitely I'd say stick around. If it's less of a challenge, pop in or out. I'd love to still have you here. So let me give you a little bit of background for this video. So I have a colleague who works with families as well, and she has a client who connected with her and said, hey, I'm having this issue with my husband, and we are not on the same page. And she shared some specifics of what had been going on. And so my colleague asked this mother, can I share this with my colleague and get her approach, because this is not really something I deal with. So that's the background. And I said, yes, I would be glad to do that. So that's what I'm doing. So here's a bit of the specifics, because I do want to respond to the specifics in this case, and they may or may not be applicable to you. So the situation that this family was experiencing there was a specific, but there's also sort of an ongoing set of conditions. So the specific was that there had been a lot of tension and stress and strain, and specifically the father had recently yelled at and spanked their 6-year-old child, and the mom doesn't agree with that. And so the mom was asking about handling that, but also then the bigger issue of what do you do when you have differences with your partner? So that's the nutshell. So the first thing I want to do is I want to address the spanking, because it's a really important piece, and again, may not apply to you, but if it does, listen to this as well, please. So when I address this, what I want to say, first of all, is mama, I know you're doing your best. And I don't say any of this in judgment, because it's hard. It's hard when we are changing our ways, and when we have our own history and background that may have said, this is what happened to me, this is what my partner grew up with, things like that. So no judgment, lots of compassion, because I know it's hard. I do want to say, given all that spanking is something we know. There are tons and tons of research studies, credible research studies, that have shown that spanking is an ACE, an adverse childhood experience. And the more ACEs a person has, the more likely they are to have long-term, I'm talking their whole lives, negative consequences, mentally, emotionally, and physically. So your child getting spanked, I definitely don't want that for them. And yet I know that if everything else is fine in life, that, will have a buffering effect, and that spanking, will be mitigated. Nonetheless, it still is something that has a long-term deleterious effect for your child. And I know you don't want them to suffer those repercussions. So we want to treat it as serious. It's not minor. It's not child abuse in a technical legal term, but we know it's not the right choice, and it doesn't have any positive effect, no matter what people who like to say it works will tell you. So all of that being said, and I'm trying not to get totally up on a high horse here, because again, it's not about judgment. I want to say though, that knowing all that, then to me, as a person who is saying, you know what, I want to practice conscious, peaceful parenting, part of that means being able to have strong boundaries in some places. So that means that if you have a strong boundary, then you want to have it with other people as well. So this is something to me that you draw a line on in the sand as a parent, and you say, nope, we don't do this in our house. And if your partner's not on board, then it's really, we're saying, is this a partnership we can have? Because this is absolutely something that is harmful and I'm not going to tolerate it. And so if you think it's the way to go, now that doesn't mean, you're going to remove your child from that person. Even if you got separated or divorced, your child's still going to be with that person at times, unless you have other reasons for that not to happen. So it's not like you can prevent spanking. You can, though, say, in our household, that does not fly. No go, we're not going there. So to me, when we have problem with that in our own families, we want to take it outside the family and say, okay, let's say a teacher spanked my child. Would I want to have a conversation with that teacher? If a stranger decided to spank my child, would I want to have a conversation with that stranger? And if you say yes to either of those, which I hope you would, then all that's happening in the family is you're making excuses to say, well, but I can't do it, or it just causes problems. Well, it might, but that doesn't mean that you lessen the boundary. It's something firm. So don't make excuses. Be willing to have that hard conversation. And I get that it's hard, and I get it can be really difficult, and you may have your own issues, which I don't know about. So again, my heart goes out to you and any of you that find yourselves in similar situations. And yet this is one that you just can't work your way around it. Spanking is an ace. It's harmful for the long-term and short-term health of your children. It will follow them into adulthood, no matter what other people will say that they turned out fine. So it's something that you need to just draw a line in and say, nope, not happening. And then do the work that's required to navigate that with your partner. Maybe they will, oh, okay, well, you're saying we can't do it. So, okay. But be willing to do that work. Okay. So that's the specific there. I want to get, though, to the more general topic of when you have differences in approach and philosophy with your partner. Often I hear, and I even use this language, are you on the same page as your partner? And I'd like to actually use that as a way to think about this. So really, like I said earlier, we are going to have differences because we're different people. So just know that that's the case. What you want to do, though, is you want to distinguish what kind of differences. So I'm going to give an example and then extrapolate it. So my husband and I have sometimes a different approach to chores and doing things around the house. Our daughter's 8.5. And so a specific example would be when we do laundry, if I fold it and put it, get it all done, I tend to take my daughter's laundry, I will put it on her bed and ask for her to put it away. Now, I might help her. I might even sometimes do it for her, depending on what else is going on. But in general, I'm going to pretty much stick to that and say, I did the washing and I did the folding and hanging up. And so here, your step is to then put it where it belongs, closets, drawers, so on. My husband, more frequently than I will, he will tend to say, well, I just want to get it done, so I'm going to put it away for her. So that to me is a parenting difference, right? So I'm saying, here's the way I'm approaching it with my daughter. He's saying, here's the way I'm approaching it. Again, typically. That is an action. So that is something where we are choosing an action, and sometimes we get in discussions about it, and sometimes there can be some heat on it. But that is something that is more in a, okay, day to day, we're playing it out differently. Underlying both of those, we still have the same philosophy. So we treat our daughter as our equal. We treat her with love, respect, kindness, gentleness, compassion, patience, except when we don't, because we're human. But, we have that same underlying thing. We don't think that she should do our bidding. We don't think that she's less than we are. So we have a whole host of beliefs that are in accord with each other. So they really are the same beliefs. So in my way of thinking, my husband and I are in the same book and on the same page. So we still manifest it differently. Maybe I'm at this paragraph on the page and he's at this paragraph, but that is more, fine, nuanced differences. That's an example of, yeah, where you're in accord with your partner. So that's different though than if you have a partner who thinks, well, I think children basically should be doing what they're supposed to do. When adult tells them to do things, they should do it. And your philosophy is more, well, yes, I'd like my child to cooperate with me. And yet I really believe that even though they're younger and smaller, that they should have the same kind of rights and autonomy that I have within reason. I mean, if they're 2, they can't drive a car, things like that. But, you say, this is my philosophy. You potentially are in entirely different books. They're over here in this book of parenting, what I would call the dominant cultural paradigm. And you're in this book, which is the conscious, peaceful, mindful paradigm. So that doesn't mean you can't get together. I'm not saying because they're in this book, have a book club. No, but anyway, doesn't mean you can't get together. It's just that is a significant difference versus a more transactional, oh, okay, here's how I play out the idea of active listening with my child. Here's how I do it. Here's how my husband does it, or here's how my wife does it. That's something, again, you can then work with each other like, hey, would you be willing to experiment with this method? Or, hey, I'm finding this is effective. That's something you can really easily work out. And you probably already know this already, but really be mindful and check in and say, okay, do we really have some big philosophical differences? And if that's the case, I'm not going to go into it here. I have another video, which I'll add in the comments here after I'm done. But if you have one of those, we're in different books, then I want to give you a couple of general ideas to be thinking about. The first is that very few, if any, people change when they think they're being made wrong. So one of the things I find with peaceful, conscious parents is that sometimes we are not very peaceful and conscious in the way we attempt to enroll our partners. And it's because, we get triggered and things feel so intense for us. And we're like, I don't want to do this. This is awful. Or I've read this and I see, the negative impact of ACEs. But nonetheless, if you come to your partner and say, you are a total jerk for spanking our kids and I hate you, of course they're not going to change. Why would you change? That's not, I don't like to be attacked. Nobody likes to be attacked. So that is something that we really want to be mindful of, is when we are engaging with our partner over co-parenting differences, we don't want to come in as, you are doing it wrong, I know the right way. And again, most of us at times will definitely tend to go there. So just be aware of that. What's the energy you're bringing? Are you judging them? And if you're judging them, don't have the conversation. Get your judgment out. Go to a therapist, work with a coach, journal about it. Do what you know to do and use the tools you have to release that judgment so that you can have a conversation that is open and respectful and loving with your partner. Especially if that's what you're wanting for your kids, you can't have a different type of conversation with your partner and expect, your kids to be getting something different. If you're yelling at your partner, yeah, of course they're going to yell at your kids and spank your kids. I mean, yeah, you're contributing to it as well. So that's one thing. The second thing I would say is, once you've checked your energy and like, hey, am I going to this in judgment? My other strong advice is go into it less about convincing them and making them want to change, which you cannot do, and be more curious and wondering about why it is they do what they do. What are their fears? What is their concern? So have that conversation more from a starting place of, I'd like to know more. I'd like to understand why this seems like the right choice to you. And hopefully, everybody has different levels of self-awareness and personal development. Some of you may have partners that aren't willing to go there. So to me, that's again, another issue that you want to look at. But if you approach it that way, really from a genuine, I do want to understand, because I don't want us to keep doing it this way. You don't have to step away from your own values. You still can say, you know what, I really want to do it this way. This really is important to me, but I'm not going to convince you and try and tell you the 26 reasons why. I want to really hear, why is it you're doing it the way you are? Because when you start there, your chances of creating the space in which your partner will choose to change are a million times better than if you try and convince them. Because people don't change, people don't make decisions for rational reasons. They make them for emotional reasons, and then they come up with the rationale to say, oh, well, here's why I made it. So if you find out more about why your partner has that approach, what's in their experience, what are they worried about, what are they thinking, what happened to them, the more you can find out about that, then you'll better understand them, which is great for your relationship. Again, whether you stay in that relationship because you're like, wow, I really understand, or you say, you know what, I understand, and yeah, we got to go apart. It's all good information. The other piece of when you approach it with curiosity, the other thing that happens is that you set that next stage for the conversation about, are you willing to try this? Or can I share with you some of what my concerns are, what I'm actually wanting? So again, then you're coming from a place of what's genuine for you, not just here's a bunch of data and here's these research studies. Because again, if they are in a belief system that is solid for them, you can throw all the information at them and they're not going to listen to it because they already have this set of beliefs that's keeping them locked in what they're doing. So approach it without your own judgment on them. Don't make them wrong. Handle that so you can come to them with compassion and love and wanting to change, but not making them wrong for doing it the way they're doing. The second piece then is approaching it with curiosity. Why is it this way that they're doing it is the way they're doing it? And be open to just sitting with that and hearing that and recognizing it's just like I did a video actually yesterday on empathy with our kids. It's the same thing. You are going to this conversation with, I want to understand you. I want to know who you are and know why this is what's alive in you and what is up for you. Because if that's the way you approach it, again, chances of them being open to change expand exponentially. And then you also have some data to be able to talk with them about when you get to that place of, okay, can we talk about logistics? Like, what will we do or what can we experiment with? So do those things. Like I said, I'm going to link to another video. But the bottom line is that when you see that you're really in different parenting books, most of the time, what we tend to do, and I see this all the time, is that we become zealous, right? And we're like, this is the way to do it. I believe in it. And we just bash the other person over the head with, here's why we need to do it this way. They are not going to want to do it this way. I'm not saying nobody's ever been convinced by logic, but in general, when we just say this is way and we have to do it this way, and people aren't going to be receptive. So if you have that genuine conversation with love and compassion for them and curiosity about why they're coming to it the way they are, that is going to set you up much better for a more productive conversation about potentially making change. And then the final thing I'll say is that then you also find out, is this person open to change? So you hear them and you really get, okay, here's where they're coming from. Maybe a week later or a month later or a day later, whenever is really the right connected moment, you really get to have that conversation about, are you open to doing it differently? They might be scared. They might be thinking they're going to fail. They might, think they suck already as a parent. And so they're just afraid that this is going to be one more way for them to be proven wrong, whatever their issues are. But then you find, are they open? And if you're in two different books and your book is really important to you, like, these are my values and I really want to do it this way. Again, you can't prohibit every kind of experience that you don't want for your child to happen. You can't do that, even if you stay really true to your philosophy. What you can do, though, is if your partner is like, I'm not willing to even look at your book. I don't care about it. It's not. Then you have some data. And again, as hard as it is to look at, to say, is that really the main environment, the main other caregiver that I want my child or my children to have the experience with. We all have the experience we do. And so we can make beauty out of really hard experiences. So I'm not saying, hey, everybody, if you have a difference with your partner, you have to leave your marriage. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying it is your opportunity to really look at and say, you know what, if this person is really not ready to come along to something that absolutely, I'm 100% convinced that these are so key that, I really can't live without them, then that's data for you to say, maybe there's something to evaluate about this relationship as a whole. And then you go use the tools and go through the process to do that. So I hope that's really helpful to the specific mama who had the questions for my colleague. To those of you that find yourself in a similar situation, I certainly hope it is giving you some food for thought. And if you have questions or comments, please feel free to reach out to me. And if this is something that you are struggling with and really want to look into, how can I actively work to change the dynamic I have with my partner and create something different for our family, reach out to me. You can book a complimentary session via my website, which is shawneelavender.com. There's a button that says Illumination Session. You can do that. And we'll talk about what coaching options I have for you, and I'll learn about your situation more specifically. If you want to keep engaging in these kind of conversations and get support, my best recommendation is to join my Thriving Family Circle. It's a paid membership program where I do coaching. So you bring any issue to the table and I will coach you around it. I do education with monthly webinars, which I'm going to be doing actually in a little bit. Other videos, audios, printables on the member portal. So lots of benefits there. So you can check that out at shawneelavender.com/Thriving Family Circle. So thanks for spending this time with me. I'm Shawnee Lavender. I'm the Conscious Moms Coach. And I wish you a wonderful day and hopefully alignment with your co-parent. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.